Today, we are going to save money and save something from ending up in the landfill. We're going to take those CD inserts and turn them into DIY art journals. Here's a sneak peek of the finished DIY art journals. So these are the inserts. Some fold out like this, and some are booklets. They can have 2 pages, they can have up to 16 different lengths. And if you're like me, you have a pile of these, and they've been sitting in my stash for a long time. But today I'm going to turn them into art journals, and I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can do this. In way 1, what we're going to do is basically put a coat of gesso. This is going to get rid of the sheen, so it takes the acrylic paint a little bit better. It's going to knock back whatever is there. Now, in this case, there's just the lyrics, there's text, and I'm not obliterating that. You can still see the text shining through because, well, that's a layer of interest that I'm not going to have to add. I'm using a brayer to very, very quickly apply the gesso to the page. And when I do this, I do, coating things with gesso, I tend to do it in a single session because that means there's one cleanup. This adds, by putting it on with the brayer, it adds texture and interest to it. Now, once I've put this on, you need to do some drying in between, and then you need to kind of open it up and let it stand so that it can completely dry before you start doing the art journal page. So as you can see, this is pretty messy, which is why I tend to do a gesso painting session. And then I only have to spray my silicone mat with my Murphy's oil soap, and I have one cleanup. I have one brush to clean. I have, instead of doing it again and again and again. And then those gessoed booklets can sit there. I don't have to take them to the next stage. So another way that we can do this, we're going to come back to the gessoed one, but that's drawing, is to apply some gel prints on there. So I've picked out a variety of gel prints. I've decided for this book, I'm going with a different color for each two-page spread. I'm going to do variety, but you can do it all pinks or all blues. You can pick a theme for it and go with that. I got out my guillotine cutter and I've just measured the height of the page. I'm just going to adjust this here and I'm going to get a nice straight cut. And again, I'm doing this kind of assembly line fashion. Then I'll put away my guillotine cutter and I can move on to the next step. So this is a great way of using up those gel prints that you have. They don't have to be the perfect gel prints because this could be just the jump start to your art journal page. It's just the beginning. Or it could be like the blue one there. I love that as it is. It's very unlikely that I'm going to do much to that. But some of them, they might be some things that, it was kind of a failed gel print. So once they're all cut, I'm going to glue this down and I'm choosing to use gel medium. I'm using a brush to apply the gel medium on there. And then once I have a good coat of the gel medium, I'm going to put the gel print on it. Now, as I'm watching this and doing the voiceover, I'm thinking that I could have used a glue stick to glue this down. And that might be a little easier, a little neater, a little less wet. Because as I'm gluing all the gel prints on this, the pages got considerably moist because it's soaking in and I wasn't drying it off. Now, here's the option. I'm doing this all in one sitting, basically for the video. But if I was dedicating one of these 4 gel prints, I might just choose the gel print that day, glue it down, let it dry, and then proceed with the art journal page. There's nothing saying that you have to do it all in one sitting like you're seeing me do it here. So I'm just making sure that this is got good adhesion. I'm making sure that, I've got right to the edges, and then I'm proceeding. At this point in time, there is no thought about what I'm going to use this journal for, what I'm going to put in here. It's on the smaller scale, so this is a good place to use some of your stamped images that don't work on those large art journal pages. This might be a book that you're grabbing when you have a limited amount of time. Small page, it's already started, it's going to quicken, it's going to allow you to art journal, but without requiring a couple hours of your time. I always find it's handy to have some art journals like this that are ready to go close at hand. Making sure that things are glued inside, cleaning it up, and cutting off the excess. Making sure adhesion is there, and I'm just keep going. The next color, the next color, the next color. Now, if you don't have gel prints, you could put magazine pictures or, colorful parts of magazines on there. You can put coffee filters. You could put scrapbook papers. Now, the thing about adding this, you have the paper that the insert is on, and then you're adding another layer. So these bulk up quite a bit. They get very thick. So that might be something to be mindful of. And here I've chosen to use a masterboard. There's some texture paste on here or thickened gesso, and I'm using that as a nice cover for this art journal. I just selected a paper that was pretty much done. I'm just going to have to put, mini art journal if I pick a theme. And then I'm just cutting off little bits of that excess on here and then drying it. And again, I'm going to open it up, fan it out, and let it sit like this to completely dry. This is pretty moist because I've glued and I haven't taken time to dry it completely in between. So let's go back to the one that we put the gesso on. Now, on this one, I am going to add different colors on each 2-page spread. I don't like having one color on one side and a different color on the other side. Again, personal preference. Here I'm adding quinacridone magenta and Naples yellow. That's giving kind of that peachy, corally color. And I'm applying it with a makeup sponge. It's going on really smoothly because the gesso has turned the surface into a non-porous surface, so you blend a little bit easier. Each of the pages on this, I'm going to show slightly different way of finishing it off. Now, my goal is not to finish each of these backgrounds. I'm just kind of putting on colors, and if I have an idea for another step, I'm going to add it. But you can just put the base color right now. The other thing that you can do is once it's gessoed, you could just be applying paint on the page that you are doing. So you don't have to make all the decisions all at one time. Or you could have that gessoed booklet there, and then when you have leftover paint, grab a makeup sponge and put it on. When you have extra modeling paste, you can add that to it. And so this becomes kind of your accidental art journal where you're using leftovers. But I want to get these to the finished, not quite finished pages, but finished base so that the art journaling process is a lot simpler. Now here I've grabbed, it was a wine cork, and I'm just putting white acrylic paint on it, and I'm stamping some white dots on this. This was something I had sitting on my desk. I looked up, I said, okay, why not? I'm not putting a whole lot of thought into this. And that's one of the advantages of doing it in this kind of session, because you're not thinking about the finished product. And sometimes that I find frees up my creativity. And I get some really neat ideas that I can then do on purpose. So there I've added some dots to this page. So on the next page, I'm going to add light blue permanent, and I'm going to put that in a few spots, but I'm going to leave some of that white space. I have that text there, and I don't want to get rid of it. I'm going to use that. Why would I need to go and stamp with a text stamp when I already have it on there? So I'm adding some of the light blue permanent, and then I'm going to do some smooshing with, I believe this is the quinacridone magenta I had left over from the first page, and I'm using it up. And again, this is one of the ways you can add. You can flip through the pages and do some smooshing on them. Here I'm just putting it on an acetate, thinning down the acrylic paint, and then just basically stamping with it or smooshing with it. So we've got the white space and we've got that lovely texture by the smooshing added to it. Once that's dry, I looked up again and I had this text stencil, grabbed my stencil brush, and I'm just stenciling, I believe with Prussian blue, some text, a little bit more text, darker text. And again, this is simply a matter of me looking up and seeing what's on my desk within arm's reach, grabbing it and putting it down. I may, when I decide to do this page, I may add more to the background, or I might think this background is ready to go. It's completely done. And I will leave that decision for that day. And maybe there will be another video where I finish all of these pages. This is a new stencil. It's from Stamperia. I love the text, the bigger words, the smaller words. It's just something that I know I'm going to get a lot of use from. So on this page, you kind of got a sneak peek because I didn't do it necessarily in the order that you see. Here I'm just adding Hooker's Green with some white gesso, again with the makeup sponge, and I'm getting some variation in color. The text is still shining through. Once that's dry, I'm just going to use another mark making tool that I have sitting on my desk. And Prussian blue. And that is, I'm using my drywall tape. Love how this looks. And I have to stop myself from using it on multiple pages all in the same journal because I think this is such a great effect. You know, one little piece of drywall tape, using it as a stencil. So don't think you need to buy expensive stencils in order to create some wonderful pages. On this page, I am using cadmium red and I believe dioxazine purple. Odd color combo, but I love it. I think I discovered this by accident, and now it's a color combo that I like using on purpose. So I'm just adding some of the, again, with a makeup sponge, it's blending wet on wet. Little bit of a darker page than the others, and that's okay. But because it's dark, I'm going to choose to brighten and lighten it up with adding another layer. I grab a piece of the inside of cardboard and put some white acrylic paint on it, and I'm stamping with it. So I've used drywall tape, a wine cork, and some cardboard to add interest to my pages. And then I decided, I'm going to add a little Prussian blue. I had some leftovers. I'm going to put Prussian blue with this stencil on there. You can't see a lot of it, but it does add interest. Another layer, and that's what it's all about. Backgrounds are fun to create, all those layers, different combinations. So here is the one that we put gesso on and then coats of paint. And I did, slightly different things on each page, different mark makers. It's a smaller book. And this is the one that we glued the gel prints on. It had more pages in it. It did bulk up quite a bit. Um, I prefer this one, quite honestly. It's lighter, thinner. It didn't bulk up as much. And I think it was easier all the way around. So you can use this, you could do one on a page on each side, or you could do a double page spread. You can go vertically, or you could go horizontally like this. I might do that. So these are going to sit up off to the side and they will be ready for me to use when I don't want to do a page. And as I'm getting ready to wrap up this video, I think, oh, wouldn't it be great? I'm going to corner round. So I grab my corner round punch and I'm just going to round off the corners because I like round corners better. This kind of tidies everything up and I don't know, just makes me happy. So I round off the corners on all the books. So there we have it. Easy DIY art journals created from something that we're saving from the landfill. Go get creative.